Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this final ordinary meeting for the Sunshine Coast Council of 2020 to 2024. Welcome to those in the gallery. I thought we would have had a full house today. But thank you for attending. All these meetings are important, but today's particularly special. So I'm going to ask the chamber to be upstanding and ask Councillor Christian Dickson to give us an acknowledgement to the traditional custodians. Thank you, Christian.
Good morning, Mr Mayor and fellow councillors. The Sunshine Coast Council acknowledges the Kabi Kabi peoples and the Jinnabara peoples whose lands and waters we all now share. The traditional owners' unique values and ancient and enduring cultures deepen and enrich the life of our communities. The Sunshine Coast has been a place of celebration, abundance, connection and kinship for thousands of years, and we commit to working in partnership with the traditional owners and continue these practices and support self-determination through economic and community development. Truth-telling is a significant part of our journey, and legacy issues resulting from colonisation are still experienced by traditional owners and First Nations people. We are committed to better understanding the collective history of the Sunshine Coast traditional owners and the experiences of First Nations people. We recognise our shared history will continue to work in partnership to provide a foundation for building a shared future with the Kabi Kabi people and Jinnabara people. We pay our respects to the traditional owners of the Sunshine Coast and their elders past and present, and acknowledge the important role of First Nations people and the roles they continue to play on the Sunshine Coast community. And as always, together we are stronger.
Thank you, Christian, very much. Please remain upstanding, and I'm going to call on Pastor Phil Greenbury from the Life Point Baptist Church to read the prayer. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks for the privilege of being here. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I want to pray for our council today. As things start to change, as different things start to happen, we want to say thank you for the faithfulness of these people who've invested so much into the Sunshine Coast. Thank you for Mayor Mark Jamieson and his terms, Lord. We pray, Lord, as he takes on something different, that you would bless him. Thanks for just the time and the energy and everything that he's put into the Sunshine Coast. Thank you, Lord, for the councillors who aren't continuing on. I just really pray for them as they look to different things in the future, that there'd be open doors for them. And Lord, I pray for our council as it changes. I pray that there'll be a group of people that really want the best for our Sunshine Coast, that they would come together. There'd be a team of people working arm in arm, hand in hand to make a difference here in a great place in Australia. As they make decisions today too, Lord, I pray as they reflect on so many different things, give them wisdom, give them insights, may good decisions be made for the sake of the whole of the Sunshine Coast. And I want to say thank you for the time and effort and the energy that goes into this. So we commit them to you, we commit our elections to you, and we pray, Lord, for your leading and guidance that the best things will happen here on the great Sunshine Coast. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Phil. If you could remain upstanding, I want to acknowledge the recent passing of former Mayor of Caloundra City, Don Aldis, OAM. And I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of former Caloundra City Council Mayor and Landsberg Shire Councillor, Don Aldis, OAM. Don first became a councillor with the former Landsberg Shire in 1982, concluding in 1985. He went on to be elected as Mayor of Caloundra City Council in 1988, serving until 1991, and was again re-elected as Mayor in March 2000, continuing in the position until his resignation in February 2008 due to personal and health reasons. In 2009, Don received the Medal of the Order of Australia in the Queen's Birthday Honours List in recognition for his service to local government, the community and youth employment. On behalf of our council and the Sunshine Coast community, I pass on our sincere thanks for Don's service to our community. And I offer our sincere condolences to Don's wife, Heather, and his family and friends during this very sad time. And I'd ask you just if we could take a moment's silence to reflect on Don's great contribution. Thank you. Please be seated. Councillors, we have full attendance today, so and I'd like someone, if you would, move receipt and confirmation of the minutes from the meeting held on 15 February 2024. Councillor Natoli, thank you. Someone to second. Councillor Baberowski, thank you. Councillors, I remind you, there is no mayoral minute. Oh, sorry, my apologies, David. Thank you. We need to. We've got to move in a second. We better vote on it. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. There is no mayoral minute, which I'm sure you'll be delighted about. If there are any conflicts of interest, I'd remind you that under the requirements of the Local Government Act 2009, which sets out how councillors' conflicts of interest are managed in local government matters. So if there is anything, please raise that before the item's discussed. I'm going to make a procedural motion that council suspend standing orders to consider presentations as the last item on the agenda, and I'm going to move that, and Councillor Baberowski is going to second it. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you for that. So we'll move straight into item 8.1, which is the February 2024 Financial Performance Report, and welcome Sharon to give us a presentation. Thanks, Sharon.
Good morning, Mr Mayor, councillors and council executive staff. Today I present the February Financial Performance Report.
Sharon, can you just pull the mic down a little bit, would you mind?
Sorry.
Thank you. That's
Thank
great.
you. Apologies. As at the end of February, the council's operating result stands at $150.6 million, aligning with the current budget. The revenue trails behind budget by $3.6 million, and expenses are also below budget by the same amount, $3.6 million. Council's revenues behind budget include quarry services and plumbing applications, both tracking $1.7 million below budget year to date, and Calandra Music Festival revenue is $1.6 million below budget. These revenues are offset by operational expenditure running 1% below budget, specifically quarry services $1 million and solar farm energy charges are $1.2 million below budget year to date, while Calandra Music Festival expenditure is $645,000 below budget. Our capital works program has progressed 54.8% of the $332 million budget, with a total expenditure reaching $182 million. The core capital works program is 47.5% complete, with an actual spend of $80.6 million. At the end of February, council's cash was $301 million and the total debt stands at $418 million, with council's anticipated new borrowings for this financial year to be $28.5 million. In terms of investment performance, we currently hold 19 term deposits totalling $190 million, with an average weighted return of 5.06%. And the recommendation, Mr Mayor, is as presented on the slide.
Thank you, Sharon. Somebody to move? Councillor Hungerford, thank you. Councillor Natoli, thank you. Would you like to open, Councillor Hungerford?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I will repeat some of those again because they're a very good result and it's consistent for this council. And then at the end of this, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. It's unusual for me, with some of the false claims out there being made in the campaign about council's finances, because I think they really need to be corrected. Positive operating result of $105.6 million. Excellent result. Operating revenue, slight variance of 3.65 million below budget, offset by 363 million or 3.6 million lower than budget. So the two balance each other out. So that's a very balanced position to be in. February capital works, 182 million or 54.8%. The core capital program, 47.5% of budget, an actual spend of 80.6 million, and corporate major projects progressed 62.7%. That's an excellent result considering the wet weather we've had. So our teams out there and crews and contractors are doing very well at the moment in a very difficult environment. But the pleasing one is a cash balance of 301 million and debt has further reduced from 425 million down to 418 million. We're continually getting our debt down. And this is what upsets me. We're in an election campaign and there's some out there peddling that we need a forensic look at our books, we need to find out what's hidden, what's not quite right. That's getting peddled all the time. But let's look at the facts. Queensland Audit Office audits all local governments, all 77 local governments across Queensland annually. That's a forensic audit, a full forensic look at all our finances independently. And that's tabled in Parliament every year, and that's on the public record. They're public documents. And we've received 15 unmodified audits in a row, 15 years in a row, clean bill of health, perfect accounting, bookkeeping, and everything's accurate. And yet there's those out there peddling there's something we need to find what in the budget that's not right, and a full forensic look at the books. What nonsense. Queensland Treasury on those then gives every council a credit rating. We have a strong and neutral rating, one of only 4 of the 77 councils to have that rating, the highest that can be given. And yet there's those out there still peddling there's something wrong with their finances, it needs to be looked at because something's hidden. And all of those audited accounts that are tabled in Parliament, all our financials here are all in the public realm. Everything's there for everyone to plainly see, open and transparent. The whole lot. And we've still got those peddling this nonsense out there. My message is plain to the community out there. Do not be conned. Do not be deceived by these false narratives that are being put to you. Because nothing can be further from the truth of what they're peddling. Do not be fooled. This council's financial management is second to none. And our community can be proud of that. And those that are peddling this really are a disgrace because they need to look at the facts and actually put out there what the facts are, not misrepresenting and misleading the community. It really gets me annoyed when month after month, perfect accounting and management of our finances, and yet there's those that want to try and denigrate that, and I think that's disgraceful. And thank you, Mr Mayor, because it does get me upset when we're doing such a fine job.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Any further speakers? Councillor Dickson.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. In regards to the attachment, page 9 of 16, on the bottom left, we talk about a range of significant projects which will be commencing shortly. And I just wanted to touch on one of those which I've been pushing for since about 2015. It's the Stringy Bark Road pedestrian and cycle bridge. And I've actually got some exciting news to share on that. So I'll just quickly acknowledge and thank Emma Thomas and council staff, and particularly Councillor Ted Hungerford. It's a project that we share between Division 6 and 7, a current bridge over Stringy Bark Road, which is, in my opinion, very unsafe to be sending young children on bikes to school, to the universities and the school precinct. And we've actually secured $11.8 million in partnership with council and the state government to build a dedicated pedestrian and cycle bridge. So I've been pushing for that from 2015. The project's actually currently underway. It's actually starting right now. The project news has gone out. There's been some tree clearing occurring, and for every tree we remove, 1 comes out, 3 will go back in. The project will be started obviously in March, the month we're in, and be completed by hopefully November with good weather. So people who have raised this, please be aware that the bridge is finally happening. I know we've been talking about it for probably the last 9 years, but we finally got everyone in council on board, the state government on board. The project is happening, and just wanted to thank Councillor Ted Hungerford for his assistance in making this project happen, and obviously the CEO and executive staff.
Thank you, Councillor Dickson. Councillor Cox.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just thought I'd rise to just echo some of the comments that Councillor Hungerford has said. Campaigning brings out some mistruths, and I congratulate Mr Hungerford for trying to sort of rectify some of those misleading comments that have been circulating throughout the campaign. There was a candidate that's running for Division 3 that's going to obviously be vacated with my departure soon. And they put up something on social media talking about how much council's in debt. So I actually responded and I said, look, just for your information, we've got balance sheet with assets of around about $7 billion. I said, yes, we do have a bit of a debt, around 418 million, I think, is the current amount. And I said, so if you were to break that down and say, if that was a property, $1 million property, that would be the equivalent of having less than $65,000 mortgage on it. So I know a lot of our debts, especially to do with the Maroochy city centre, are going to be cost neutral. They take a little while to return back to that neutral position. But so are things like the multi-deck car parks. There's an income stream there and it'll be repaid. So I've tried to do my best to educate the community, and I certainly appreciate Councillor Hungerford continually to fight the misinformation and bring along those facts as he suggested. So this is my last time speaking to a financial performance report, so I just wanted to congratulate all the staff. I think you guys are the unsung heroes of the council. You certainly keep us on track, and I've certainly appreciated the frank and full advice over 12 years, and if you could pass that along to all your team, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Thanks very much, Councillor Cox. I did wonder, Madam CEO, who would indeed conduct such a forensic study of our books beyond Queensland Treasury Corporation or the Queensland Audit Office? Right, okay, all right. No. Okay, let's keep going. Thanks very much, Sharon. I'd like to invite Tom to come and give us a presentation, or is Craig doing it? Sorry. Oh, get the vote, sorry. I'm urgent to get out of this. Yeah, you're yeah, Ted, would you like to close on that?
I reiterate to the community out there, don't believe the rhetoric and nonsense that's swirling around election time. The facts are very different to what's being peddled out there.
Thank you. We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Move to item 8.2 and invite Tom to do the presentation on the Audit Committee meeting held on the 26th of February 2024.
Through the Mayor. Good morning, Mr Mayor, Madam CEO, councillors, group executives and Sunshine Coast community. I'm here just to give you a quick presentation on the Audit Committee meeting that was held on the 26th of February. It was a full meeting. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So it was a full agenda, which we got through in record time. So thanks to all the participants. There's a lot covered in there. I'll take the minutes as read. The highlights for me were, next slide. Thank you. So the program will work on the asset valuation, the well-being, health, safety report, payroll update, the cyber report, which comes to every 6 months, and then a number of governance reports. So I'll take it as read and take any questions from councillors.
Thank you, Tom. I'll get someone to move first. Thanks, Councillor Natoli. Seconded by Councillor Hungerford. Please open, Councillor.
Mayor, there's not much to be said. The report itself is pretty clear, but I just want to say that I think it's been opportunity to sit on the audit committee for 4 years with Councillor Hungerford, it's a great way of being able to really reflect on some of the processes that council have and where the organisation itself needs more support and assistance. And for me as a councillor sitting on that audit committee, it's really good to be able to see where we need to be able to focus more of our attention in dealing with some of the issues that the growth of this organisation, how to manage the systems that we've got and the processes that we've got, and ultimately the people that we have that work for us, and obviously the CEO and the support that you give to the audit committee. It's a vital function. We have 3 really good representatives, independent representatives that sit in there. They are the best that I've ever been involved in. I was involved in the audit committee in my years at Maroochy Shire as well. So I can say that these 3 that we have representing us are the best that I've worked with. So thank you for the work that you've done. And I know that the audit office is wanting me to do a survey and review the system. There could be some improvements. I would hope that the internal audit process has the ability to be able to actually look even further into areas at the moment that it is currently restricted from being able to do.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Mr Mayor. This is our last one for this term of council. I've been in the audit committee for the past 4 years and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It opens your eyes to the insights to the organisation and how we operate, and looking at areas where risk could eventuate, but being proactive by looking at those and putting those implementations in place. So we're being proactive all the way through, and I think that's the strength of the audit committee. We look for where problems could be, and we work on those before they actually become a problem. So that's been very proactive, and it's been very rewarding for me to be part of that. In this one here, I see all the reports went up to the audit committee, were received and noted without modification, and works in progress, and some of those are still going on. But it just shows having that internal process and being able to critically look at yourself and look for areas that could become a problem and making adjustments to make sure that doesn't happen is an excellent thing, and I look forward to continuing in that role for the next 4 years because I found it very rewarding, and it's actually brought my knowledge of the council organisation and how we work up, and I'm sure Councillor Natoli is the same. And for those councillors that see these reports come through each time, a lot of work goes into this every time, and for the team in council, all the different departments that work on a lot of those reports, and where we identify an area that needs to be looked at, and they bring a report back on how they're going to deal with it, has been excellent, and I want that passed on to the organisation because there is some excellent work over the last 4 years that I've seen there. And we've got very good staff in those areas, so I'd like to pass that on. Another excellent result, and we're handing over to the new council coming in with everything in very sound position. So it's a good start for the new council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Baberowski.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thought I might use this opportunity just to give perhaps the CEO an opportunity to draw a highlight on page point 4.6, which is People, Wellbeing, Health and Safety Report, which reports a 75% reduction in lost time and injuries and a 48% reduction in severity rate. I just thought that's a pretty striking achievement. I wonder whether you wanted to make a comment on that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the opportunity to do that. Safety is always front of mind for us in Council. As you are all aware, we do a variety of very significant, very diverse activities that happen across many, many different fronts. And so that presents us with a constant view of what's going on out there. And I think, to the credit of Scott Taylor particularly and his team in built infrastructure, there is, where those field staff are out really every day out in our environment, doing a range of very different jobs as well. They had a very strong focus at the beginning of the year, regrouping and really focusing on the pre-starts, the risks we were going to take, We've had a rejuvenation of our safety function within council. We've got a fantastic new safety manager who's working right out in the field. He's gone immediately to our frontline people. He's not he is an office-based person, but he's making it his business to be out there front and centre with our people who are doing the work and having conversations with them about how we can support them better to do the jobs that they do. And I think we're really seeing a reflection of that, and we hope that we can take that further and further as we go into the next term of council.
Thank you, CEO. I know that that's a subject dear to your heart, and that as the CEO, you've brought a really crisp focus onto occupational health and safety and workplace, and the whole thing about caring for each other and our values. But I wouldn't mind just pointing out that for the 12 years I've really appreciated not being on the audit committee. But I do appreciate how valuable it is, and I'd like to thank Councillor Ted and Councillor Natoli for this term, but Councillor Ted for other terms as well, in paying such close attention to the reports in a way so I might not be quite so attentive. I do attend to them, but not quite as much as you do. I think the real value of these reports is the confidence that they give to not only us as the body politic, but also to the executive, but more importantly to the community. That's what these reports are really all about, the openness and transparency so that they can be confident that this council operates really well. Thank you for your service, Councillor Hungerford and Councillor Natoli. And most importantly, the team. I must say that I pass John pretty much every day, and I've never once seen him without his head buried into the screen. So thank you very much for your dedication, and the rest of the team. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Baberowski. No further speakers. I'll go back to Councillor Natoli to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And Councillor Baberowski, you'll be happy to know that you don't have to read those agendas that sometimes turn up. Massive commitment to read and go through those documents. I just wanted to also reflect on the value of the internal audit committee, because the mention that Councillor Hungerford about the 15 unqualified audits that the Queensland Audit Office has produced, it's the internal audit committee role to help manage and work through the nuances of being able to get us to that point. Sometimes, you know, that conflict between where we are and whether we can justify the work that we've done, and that work that we do does help navigate and be able to produce those unqualified audits. So, you know, that is a very important role that I should have mentioned before, and been very successful in being able to get us to that point each time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, councillors, and thanks very much, Tom and team. There are no notices of motion. Thank you very much. No petitions at this meeting. We'll move now into the presentations, which I will commence. And if the council sees fit, I don't intend to put any time limits on people. I don't think people will waste your time, but rather than us having a double check every 5 minutes on whether we can keep going, if you could bear with us, I'd be grateful. And I intend to commence those presentations as we conclude this quadrennial term of Sunshine Coast Council. So councillors and staff members, members of the public, special guests, including my wife, the Mayoress, Laurel, great to have you here. And I want to say thank you to you for the wonderful contribution that you've made to our community. Always elegant, stylish, and understanding. Laurel's given 12 years of service to the Sunshine Coast community. She's provided sacrifice and guidance and purpose, and all of that at no cost to the ratepayer. She's been a volunteer and not on the payroll right through that period. I'd also acknowledge the Baberowski family. It's great to see them here in significant numbers. It's a great thing when you can name all the people in the gallery. We've got Phil, Peter Hall's there as well, and also Rhonda Billette from Nambour, who's had the very important responsibility of cutting my hair for most of the last 12 years as well. So it was good of you to come along, Rhonda, thank you. But today I seek your indulgence as I address the chamber for the last time as Mayor of the Sunshine Coast. It is said that great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending. And it's a maxim, with that maxim in mind, I've reflected on the events of my time as Mayor and considered my final observations as I approach the conclusion of my public life. Peter the Great is renowned for many things, some good and some not so good. But one of his most prosaic comments was, with determination and perseverance, we can achieve greatness. And I think that sentiment speaks volumes in describing our Sunshine Coast and particularly the resilience of our communities. Nearly 12 years ago, I was afforded the great privilege and honour by the residents of the Sunshine Coast when they elected me as their Mayor. The Sunshine Coast was a very different place 12 years ago. But the responsibility that I was granted, I've certainly never taken lightly or taken for granted. In fact, my commitment to the residents of our Sunshine Coast is something that has motivated, guided and inspired my actions as Mayor since 2012. From welcoming our newer citizens to promoting our Sunshine Coast nationally and internationally, to vigorously representing the interests of our residents and our region to other tiers of government. I have never been accepting of mediocrity and have challenged loose and vainglorious statements offered up by some elected members to court popularity. I've never shied away from pushing hard with other tiers of government, no matter what party has been in office, to get a better deal for the residents of our region of the Sunshine Coast. And yes, as expected, I've copped flack from many other local politicians here on the Sunshine Coast and elsewhere along the way, because unlike many of them, I've put the interests of our residents, our communities and our council ahead of party and personal interests. Who can forget the pompous and offended outrage of our federal representatives and some of our state MPs when I dared to speak up about their government's failure to deliver the tertiary places for the long-promised medical school at the Sunshine Coast University Hospital. I'm constantly amazed at the reactions that episodes like that engendered. For I made it very clear from day one that doing what I said I would do and representing the interests of our residents and communities would always be at the forefront of my commitment to our Sunshine Coast. I recently looked back on my inaugural speech as the newly elected Mayor at the Sunshine Coast Business Expo on the 11th of May 2012. And I'd like to share with you some of my comments from that occasion because in my mind they're just as relevant today as they were 12 years ago. And I quote, one, there are numerous opportunities in front of us and our challenges is to seize them all, optimise them and make them deliver in the long-term interests of our community. Two, the community rightly expects to feel that it has a positive future on a whole range of fronts. Three, the community expects that the economy will be well managed and expanded. Four, that politicians will say and do the right things to generate opportunity. Five, the community expects that its money, the finances of government, will be prudently managed and that a burden will not be left on the next generation to shoulder. Six, the community expects that governments will balance their economic, social and environmental policy responses. And seven, these legitimate community expectations are what will instil confidence in the future of our region. Well, more than a decade has passed and much has changed. But I think these sentiments still hold true about what our community expects from its leaders. As I look back over the last 12 years, there's little doubt that the councils I've had the opportunity to lead have achieved some truly historic and groundbreaking milestones for our region. In fact, the Sunshine Coast today is a markedly different to the one to which I was first elected as Mayor. Our region has a much stronger and resilient economy, thanks to our first ever regional economic development strategy, which was put in place in 2013. Unlike its predecessors, our council has provided a clear blueprint for the future of the region's economy, with a focus on generating investment and employment opportunities that help to keep people employed closer to home. And our reason for doing so was, and still is, that it allows our young people to make career choices that enable them to stay living in our region. The impact of our 2013 Regional Economic Development Strategy has also helped to bring our average household incomes up from 22% below the state average in 2012 to being pretty much on par today. For me, this was always a significant dividend for our community's support in building a stronger and more resilient economy. And it's why I was adamant that it should be and remains a key measure in our strategy. Under my leadership of council, we've seen transformational investment in infrastructure that has well and truly set the Sunshine Coast up for the future, like the $334 million expansion of our airport to provide our residents, tourists, local businesses and the food and agri-business industry with a direct international travel and export gateway, and ultimately delivered at no cost to the ratepayer for an asset that we still own. An interesting outcome, given the first thing I was told about the airport when I became Mayor was that we'd have to give it away if we were to have any prospect of seeing a new runway delivered. With our partner Walker Corporation and Sun Central, we're establishing a new city centre here in Maroochydore, which is coming out of the ground and will continue to go from strength to strength as it delivers on our vision to be Australia's only greenfield city centre. We secured an international broadband submarine cable network that connects the Sunshine Coast and Queensland digitally and directly to the rest of the world, providing a platform for innovative new business investments, service connectivity and new employment opportunities, some of which do not yet even exist. And of course the capacity in that cable landing station is for 3 more cables. And the work continues in attracting new participants. During my time as Mayor, we have also well and truly carved out a reputation as a national leader in environmental sustainability and conservation initiatives. Our award-winning environment and livability strategy surpasses the efforts of most other local governments in the nation in terms of its considered, evidence-based and progressive approach to maintain and enhance the lifestyle and natural assets of our great Sunshine Coast region. Not bad when I'm often falsely accused of favouring the development at all cost approach. Today our Sunshine Coast is a UNESCO biosphere, something I committed to achieving in both my 2016 and 2020 election campaigns. Under my leadership, our council has developed and delivered an array of nation-leading programs and initiatives, like the establishment of a 15 megawatt solar farm at Valdora in 2017, making our council the first in mainland Australia to offset the entirety of its electricity consumption with energy from a renewable source. With 300 days of sunlight on our Sunshine Coast, why wouldn't we have? In 2019, we established our 5,000 hectare Blue Heart Partnership, which will help to preserve the Maroochy River floodplain for its intended purposes as an important ecosystem and flood storage, while at the same time opening up new economic opportunities for landowners in blue carbon storage and keeping faith with the cultural heritage significance of this area to our Kabi First Nations people. During my time as Mayor, we also expanded our conservation estate to the largest council-owned protected area in southeast Queensland. In fact, we've acquired more conservation land than had been acquired by all predecessor councils since the first environment levy was introduced by the former Caloundra City Council in the 1990s. leaving a fantastic natural landscape legacy for current and future generations. Today we have also taken an important step on behalf of our community in recognising the existence of a climate emergency. But unlike others, we're also taking real action through measures like Zero Net Emissions Plan and Climate Hazard Adaptation Strategy to better prepare and adapt our region for the impacts of a changing climate. And we're proud to host the largest land for wildlife program in the nation, thanks to the partnerships our councillors forge with local landowners, and I thank them as well. As I said at the outset, the interests and well-being of our community have been at the forefront of the actions and decisions that I've taken as Mayor for this region. In 2019, I had a great and humbling privilege to launch our first Sunshine Coast Community Strategy. As I said at the time, along with nominating our region for a UNESCO Biosphere designation, Council's adoption of a community strategy was one of the most significant and far-reaching decisions that we would make. Pardon me. Our community strategy will shape the social fabric of our Sunshine Coast for the next 20 years and beyond, because at its foundations are strong social justice principles, equity of access, the efficacy of human dignity, and a level playing field so everyone can benefit as our region grows. And it's in this context that I acknowledge and thank the hundreds of community organisations across our region who have worked with me, engaged with me, challenged me and encouraged our council to fly higher and do better. These organisations are the backbone of our community and their efforts and impact are limitless. And I want to pay tribute to them all and wish them continued success. The councils which I've led have also invested around $2 billion since 2012 in local community facilities, roads and other infrastructure that improve the functionality and livability of all of our communities. In that time, we've also become a much more inclusive and diverse community, welcoming new residents from many nations to enjoy a lifestyle and opportunities that are second to none. When I was first elected as Mayor, Council hosted one citizenship ceremony each year. Today we hold around 6 ceremonies each year, and one of the greatest joys I've found in being Mayor is the opportunity to welcome those new members to our community, hear their stories and celebrate their aspirations for the future. And I'm very proud that around 11,569 new citizens have been welcomed in that time. For me, building stronger, more enduring and respectful partnerships with our First Nations people has been a deep-seated personal commitment. I've always held the view that we have much to learn from our First Nations people. From caring for country to preparing for natural disasters, to experiencing art and culture anchored in community, to generating new ideas and new opportunities. Our Reconciliation Action Plan has been testament to our commitment to strengthening our relationships and partnerships with First Nations peoples. And I take the opportunity to pay tribute to the Kabi and Unibara peoples as the traditional custodians of the land and waters that make up our Sunshine Coast, and thank them for their generosity of spirit and willingness to work collaboratively with me and our council during my term as Mayor. Since 2012, we've also built a solid reputation as a go-to region for national sporting teams and outdoor events. Who would have thought a decade ago that Elton John would have played 2 concerts on the Sunshine Coast? Or that we'd become the home away from home for one of the nation's leading NRL teams in the Melbourne Storm, or play host to arguably Australia's most successful start-up National League sporting team in the form of the Sunshine Coast Lightning. I'm also incredibly proud of how our council worked with our community to keep people safe and supported through the dark days of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how we came together to support local businesses which enabled our region to bounce back strongly. The speed and agility of our recovery would not have been possible if not for the if our regional economy had the same characteristics that it had when I was first elected Mayor in 2012. One thing I've been delighted to achieve for our Sunshine Coast has been to secure a significant role for our council in staging the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. This will be an unparalleled opportunity for our Sunshine Coast, or at least it will be if the politicians don't stuff it up and and can get their act together to deliver the essential transport and community infrastructure that were the founding objectives of why Graham Quirk, myself and other SEQ mayors pursued the idea in the first place. Staging part of the Games on our Sunshine Coast will put us on the world stage in front of a global audience. And I look forward to watching us outperform, outshine and outdo every other location involved in the Games in 2032. Councillors, I'm also very proud to leave our council in a strong financial position. I thank Ted and Joe for their comments earlier about the strength of our organisation from a financial perspective. And it's absolutely imperative that it stays that way, because a growing community like ours will always have demands that are forcing us to reach out to keep up. So I know our position there also is one that is envied by many other councils. This year we posted our first $1 billion budget, and in my time as Mayor we've achieved a clean bill of health every year from the Queensland Audit Office. Today our council remains one of three, I think Ted said four, but we'll split the difference, the most financially stable, sustainable councils in the state. Something that is very much part of being Mayor, just as it is for, something that is very much a part of being Mayor, just as it is part of many aspects of life, is that you're only ever as good as the team you're working with. And when you're the leader of that team, knowing you've got the support of the team is incredibly important. And if I'd not had that support from my councillor colleagues, and indeed from the organisation over a long period of time, I doubt that many of the achievements I referred to earlier would necessarily have been done. To this end, I want to particularly acknowledge and thank all of the 18 councillors I've worked with, those gathered here today, and those that were on council back in 2012, 16 and 2016 to 20, for being part of this incredible journey that we've all had as we've shaped a healthy, smart and creative future for our Sunshine Coast. Also want to acknowledge and thank the many dedicated, professional and committed staff of council who I've worked with over the last 12 years to help make the Sunshine Coast the best it can be. And I've really loved the fact that I've always felt I had the support of the staff on what we were doing, and indeed the staff relished the opportunity to participate in many of those new projects and new initiatives that made working at council a great pride for people to be a council employee and to be contributing to the future of a region like we've done. To our Chief Executive Officer, Emma, and her executive leadership team, and all the managers and staff in council, I say thank you sincerely for your contribution. May I express my heartfelt appreciation for your passion and dedication to the task, for working with me in our council over the years, and for your professional advice, support, guidance and patience along the way. In particular, I'd like to recognise the staff who I work closely with on a daily basis and who I rely on for advice and everything else. And I just mentioned Craig, Amanda, Tanya and Paul. Thank you to you. My greatest acknowledgement must, however, be reserved for my much-loved wife and my Laurel and my children, Summer, Bart and Theo and their partners, and of course my beautiful granddaughter, Lucky. They keep me grounded, focused, and I've been truly blessed to enjoy their steadfast support, loyalty, tolerance and commitment over more than 4 decades, but particularly during our public life while I've been Mayor. I could not have done the job without them. And in signing off my last address as Mayor in these chambers, I will leave you with a final quote from author Garrison Keillor. Be well, do good work and keep in touch. Thanks very much. Thank you, everybody. I'll now hand over to Councillor Baberowski.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Peter the Great is a pretty tough act to follow, and so are you. Mayor Jamieson, councillors, executive staff, families, ladies and gentlemen, I've never been that kid that knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. And yet here I am after 12 years of being a politician asking the question, did I do all right? Now, before you can answer that question, I'd better remind you of my first speech to Council, also in May 2012, when I asked the question, if we're not the dreaded Gold Coast, then what are we? My answer then, and remains, we are a community of communities in a remarkable region of choice. So I'd like to reflect with you on some of the key choices over those years, and perhaps that'll help tell us what or who we are. Are we fish and chips on the beach? Are we a soy flat white in the hinterland? Are we a pad thai curry in Maroochydore? Well, perhaps we're all of those things and so much more. Now, I've loved that the use of a community of communities is in pretty common use in describing our region. But I would have loved it even more if the second part, the region of choice, had also caught on. And that is because choice is such a critical human value. And in our high-tech, hyper-competitive world of 8 billion, you know, heading for 10, choice could become increasingly restricted by regulation, socialised by and for the few, determined by AI algorithms. But for now, particularly in our region, we have plenty of choices. So let's be that community that keeps a laser-like focus on designing our region's choices for the long term. I'm pleased to tell people that we are a values-driven region. And that's what we intend to stay. And sensibly, of course, economic development is one of those values, but by far the most important, by far not the most important. We also deeply value understanding our ecology, safeguarding individual dignity, and remembering to have a party now and again. We must, however, remain utterly determined to plan sustainable urban development within the limits of our natural and rural environments. This defines who we are and who we should stay. As the Division 1 councillor, and more recently as Deputy Mayor, it has been my incredible privilege and a good fortune to have served the community and helped make a difference to our region, its communities and visitors. So I would first like to thank the community, but in the same breath, my extraordinary partner, Karen, my ever-loving family, Hux and Liv, and extraordinary partners in life, Beck and John. Thanks for being here, guys. Hi, Etienne. For their incredible support through 3 elections and 12 fabulously cram-packed years in office. But I need to acknowledge that in council, very little is achieved alone. And I want to thank my fellow councillors and the Mayor for their deliberations and, more often than not, support for the dozens of motions that I have presented over the years. On the topic of support, you can't make the best choices without the best information. And our region has the very good fortune to be able to attract extremely dedicated and experienced council workforce, CEO and executives. So I also wanted to thank them for their commitment to this region, for the quality of their advice, their reports and recommendations. It's been an honour. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. But wait, there's more. As choices, as a politician, or my choices, I should say, as a politician, have always been built on the discerning, well, what is the greater good? And I've done that through listening, careful observations, and Google. That last bit's not true. I've also used Safari and Firefox, but always only to develop the research and make sure that I'm really focused in on the strategies to achieve the very best results on the ground possible. Now, to highlight some of the good choices that I'm most proud of. stopping a quarry that would have crushed the life out of the village of Baberowski, delivering an exceptional district park at Glasshouse, transforming the streetscape and the look of Biwa, and turning a library precinct into the heart of the district, transforming the streetscape and museum at Landsberg, and stopping a puppy farm from breaking our hearts. 3 excellent community facilities at Bell Vista, Baringa and Quanah Forest now Div 3. Delivery of 2 sports precincts at Baringa and Narimba, very proudly contributing to the biosphere, Yellow Book and design of City Hall, the formation and serving on the Arts Board and Arts Foundation, supported almost uniquely by the recently expanded Arts and Heritage Levy. But last and not least, a rescoped transport levy and the remarkable role that Council has played in the planning and advocacy for the best possible integrated public and active transport network that we need for the coast. And obviously, as the Mayor made reference to, we're not there yet. Most importantly, to work with the community and staff, of course, to lock in Council's planning scheme, powerful zoning and development controls that preserve our region's values. Now, specifically in the southern end of the coast, we must retain our inter-urban break, promote the development of Beerwah East, and preserve the rural separation, inter-township breaks, and the character of our valuable country towns. And I believe this last point is absolutely the most important commitment from the next councillor and the next council. Now, while preserving our country towns is critical, I've never hesitated to support the big region-making projects such as the solar farm, the biosphere designation, the international runway, the new city centre, the submarine data cable, and the next wave, which includes the Mullaney Ecological Park and Hinterland Cultural Facility. Together, these will all radically expand the choices available across the whole region. I've listened to as many voices as possible, but I've taken a lead where needed. I hope that's evident in my portfolio roles of transport, arts and heritage, where there is a legacy of remarkable levies, policies and programs that I can tell you other councils can just wonder at. But want to know what surprised me most? Transport. When I put my hand up for transport portfolio 12 years ago, I knew transforming the public transport network was important. I just didn't know how important. We will not be the most sustainable region if we will not remain the community of communities if we continue to do 85% of the 1.3 million trips per day. And remind yourself, 90% of those trips, that 1.3, are within the region if we do all that in cars. And heavy rail is called heavy for a reason. Its principal purpose is to move freight and lots of people city to city as a secondary purpose. So just to be crystal clear, when you put heavy rail passenger carriages on the narrow gauge, that's the rail width, we have in Queensland, then I believe the 200k or more fast rail speeds are technically terrifying and were always delusional. Side note, the lower cost of going narrow gauge as opposed to standard gauge, which is the wider gauge, was just obviously being financially realistic in the 1890s. It was very troubled times then. But that decision to go narrow gauge has come back to bite us, as our trains are now incompatible with the more stable standard gauge and hence potentially higher speeds of the national network. So, moving people on heavy rail from suburb to suburb is not a good proposition. Heavy trains are expensive and don't speed up or slow down quickly. So the more stations you add, the slower and more expensive it gets. It cannot be an efficient suburban public transport system where you need a different, lighter, cheaper technology, providing lots of convenient stations with reliable, high-frequency services built where the density of people and destinations already are. That proposition starts to compete with cars. So it is with great relief to me when the current state government announced their $2.7 billion to add to the existing federal commitment of $1.6 billion. That means we have a committed $4,350 million of investment for our region's transport, with more to come. That has to be brilliant. The Stage 1 proposal is a responsible and constructible 19-kilometre spur line connecting the hinterland to the new station at Caloundra West. They know that's clearly not job done. Yet to be announced is what needs to be a dazzlingly good public transport network connected to the end of the spur line at Caloundra West using bus rapid transit or trackless tram technology for travel from suburb to suburb within our enterprise corridor and then up to Maroochydore. This local public transport system will service the vast majority of the 1.3 million trips per day. And that is what we actually must have by 2032. This is not new. It's what was in Council's integrated transport strategy in 2018. Right now, we're car drivers, with over 85% of our trips, understandably, in the comfortable bubble of our cars. But that must change to 70%, or the spiralling congestion will wreck our region. If the public transport network is convenient, frequent, and has rock-solid travel times, people and investment will plan around it and use it. So that's it. I reluctantly pass the baton on to the next council. Please don't drop it. And now, after 12 years in politics and previously 17 years working in or with local government, it's time for me to make different, more freer choices. I'm looking forward to studying AI and its impact and its relevance to the arts and heritage sectors, returning to an arts-based creative partnership with my remarkably talented partner and artist, Karen, supporting the needs of my family, which includes the welcome demands and radiant energy of my grandchildren, and again, hello to Etienne. Dorian's not here, he's sensibly not in chambers. But finally, to the various support officers, and a special mention to my other Karen, but also to Sharon and Jodie and the others that they know, Maddie and so on, who have underpinned my 12 years. You've been awesome. Thank you very much. In conclusion, I'd like to acknowledge and thank my son Huxley for his exceptional political strategy, remarkable election skills, and also my daughter Liv, and both their partners for being instrumental in getting me here, all wrapped in their superb observations and honest opinions on all my choices. I love you, and I solemnly promise to even be more generous with my observations and opinions than you've been with me on how you're going on our grandchildren for years and years to come. That's going to be fun. Thanks very much. It's been an absolute privilege and an honour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Baberowski, and congratulations. Joining us in not recontesting the election is Councillor Cox, who of course was elected with the both of us back in 2012. So we'll look forward to hearing from your reflections. Thanks, Councillor Cox.
Thanks, Mayor. You said it was a hard act to follow, and now I've got to follow both of you. That's even worse. Well, when I look back upon my time representing Division 3 electorate for the last 12 years, has been both a privilege and an honour. Over those 3 terms, upon that reflection, I'm certainly grateful for the opportunities I've been given to serve. In 2012, I was quite disillusioned with where the coast was heading and somehow managed to be convinced to run for council. I had a simple objective to ensure better facilities and opportunities existed here for both current and future generations. And up on screen there, back in 2012, my two boys. So Josh was 10, Aiden had just turned 8. And clearly from the haircuts, you can tell that that was the Justin Bieber era. So Josh, the taller one, now 22, he's finishing his last year of a double degree on a scholarship at UQ. And Aiden, the younger one, he's really gone out into the community development and he's a great youth mentor. So I certainly admire both these young men, and that's the reason. Didn't realise it'd be this hard. That first campaign was certainly an eventful introduction. I was a truly independent candidate, not accepting any donations, funding the entire campaign out of my own pocket. And I was up against some heavily backed opponents. The final result was actually a nail-biter. And after the postal votes were counted, I was informed that I'd lost by a mere 7 votes. So that was a margin of 0.0045%. So that extreme closeness allowed me to successfully lobby for a recount, where I ended up securing victory by 66 votes. I didn't realise it'd be this hard. Whew. Sorry, everyone. To say it was a roller coaster of emotions would have been the ultimate understatement, but I jumped in, boots and all, and relished the new role. I was excited by what I might achieve and worked hard by listening to and strongly advocating for the local community needs. This often involved making tough decisions and not just the popular ones. I recall being on the end of 10 votes to 1, and I can tell you that's a pretty lonely place at times. However, staying authentic to my core values was an approach that resonated well and saw me become the councillor with the highest two-candidate preferred count of 82% at the last election in 2020. And whilst I've always strived to do my best for the greater good, I cannot claim credit for all the successes. I've worked with an incredibly talented and dedicated team of employees right throughout the organisation. From our frontline workers, in our call centre, to the men and women who maintain our parks and gardens, right the way through the organisation to our managers, and of course to our executive leadership team and CEO. You are all truly respected, and I have enjoyed the collaborative process of working with you over the years. I truly mean that. I just wanted to take time to make a couple of special mentions. And I hate singling out people, but being one of the Caloundra-based councillors, we were pretty tight-knit. There was divisions 1, 2 and 3 there for a number of years. But I had some would call a work wife, Debbie Cooper. She was with me for 11 years as my support officer. She stood down about 12 months ago, or the end of the financial year, but she was certainly an incredible asset to this team, and along with Sharon Dittman, who was also part of the team there. And I also just wanted to make mention, very briefly, the captain of the team. He's certainly been a steady hand. He's showed incredible leadership and a vision, and I just wish you and Laurel all the best. Trying to avoid looking at Maria. I'm especially proud to have been part of an innovative and progressive council. A council that is well regarded across the nation as being a leader in local government. The Mayor and Deputy Mayor have talked about some of those significant infrastructure projects that we've undertaken. And I think Sunshine Coast residents can be truly proud of those achievements, as there has been no other council in Australia that has produced those types of outcomes. They have definitely placed the Sunshine Coast in a better position for the future. More specifically, in my division, I've championed the ongoing delivery of the coastal pathway, despite encountering a great amount of resistance over many years. I consider that pathway to be one of my legacy items. In fact, only yesterday I received a wonderful email from a resident thanking me for my commitment to the pathway, as he uses it as part of his daily routine from his recovery from 2 different strokes and a recent hip replacement. That is why we do this. So the pathway, along with Graham Stewart Park in Curramundi, which is the first genuine all-abilities recreation park east of the Bruce Highway, and now features the Sunshine Coast only change-in places facility for those with extreme high care needs. There have been many, many projects that have kept me busy over the years, far too many to recount here. But in terms of unfinished business, disappointingly, there are a couple of things. I never did manage to get enough support to have one united Sunshine Coast show holiday. That may have had something to do with a couple of Show Society presidents sitting at this desk. But maybe someone might take that up in the next term. I've also surveyed the local community and put plans in place for a pedestrian bridge over Curramundi Lake, as the existing access along the Nicklin Way is no wider than a set of handlebars, making it impossible for 2 people to pass each other safely. So fingers crossed the Queensland Government comes to the party with some co-funding there. Upon reflection, I think it's important to recognise the contribution of my family, as they've lived with the many sacrifices that this role has brought. I've missed numerous sporting games, family dinners, date nights, and whilst I can never get those times back, I want to thank my family for their patience and understanding. I'm looking forward to spending more time with them. And unfortunately, they couldn't be here today. Finally, I've met many incredible residents who continue to make significant contributions to our wonderful region. And arguably, that's one of the things I'll miss most. Thanks, everyone. Peter Cox, Division 3, signing off.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. I'm now going to pass over to Councillor O'Prey, who's going to say a few words on behalf of, or to acknowledging the outgoing councillors. Thank you, Councillor.
To steal a few of your words, Mr. Mayor. Well, good morning, everybody. I've heard you say that maybe 500 times before you start your speeches. Ladies and gentlemen, on the 14th of May 2012, the Sunshine Coast changed forever. There was a real change of direction when 5 new councillors were sworn in. Division 1, Councillor Rick. Division 3, don't even look at me, Peter Cox. Division 8, myself, Jason O'Prey. Division 9, Steve Robinson. And of course, in the chair, Mark Jamieson as Mayor. In the 12 years that we've been here on council, Mr. Mayor, you've led 142 OMs, around about 58 special meetings, and a gazillion workshops. This council's been very active in this chamber and chambers across the region. There's been 3 CEOs, John Naggs, Michael Whittaker, and of course, our current CEO, Emma Thomas. Mr Mayor, you made mention there was a whole, I think you said 18 councillors that have served in the 2012 council through to now. Peter, Rick and yourself. Tim Dwyer, Deputy Mayor. Chris Thompson, Deputy Mayor. Tony Wellington, Russell Green, Jenny Mackay, Greg Rogerson, John Connolly, Joe Natoli, Winston Johnston, Christian Dickson, Ted Hungerford, Steve Robinson, Maria Suarez, David Law, and myself. What an amazing team. Mr Mayor, since you were first elected in 2012, you've worked tirelessly to create a region that is the envy of the nation. You have worked collaboratively with our colleagues across 3 councils, all of which I've had the honour to be part of, to afford our region a much stronger economy with a clear blueprint for its future resilience. You've led our council and guided us into looking into a long-term commitment to developing a thriving community. And you have passionately driven the importance of our council going that extra mile and being the best in preserving the environment and its natural assets, both for now and the future generations. Your legacy is one that will deliver benefits for decades to come, and we are proud to have been part of that and work with you. Only a few weeks ago, Mr Mayor, we heard that the Sunshine Coast was the hottest place to move to in the whole of the country, attracting 75% of internal migration, up 12.5% from previous years. And let's not forget the vital and pivotal role that you've played, Mr Mayor, in helping secure the Brisbane 2032 and Olympics and Paralympic Games, which I sometimes affectionately call the Sunshine Coast Olympics. That will deliver so much for our Sunshine Coast region before, during and long after the famous event and the greatest show on earth. Much of the appeal and the opportunity that this region presents is due to your vision and your unwavering commitment to the councils of which you have led to achieve the better future for our communities. Our Deputy Mayor, Rick Baberowski, and colleagues Peter Cox and the Mayor and yourself are part of the class of 2012, of which I'm very proud to be part of. And we've been on this journey together for 12 years. It's been a wild ride, there's been lots of ups and downs, very interesting at times, but none of us would want it any other way. Councillor Ricky, you've challenged us all into thinking differently. Think outside the square. Give conscious appreciation to the impact of art and creativity, the economic, the social and the livability fabric of our Sunshine Coast region. You've fearlessly led a progressive, focused and determined integrated transport agenda, unwavering and to the absolute top. Well done. You've been a passionate and vigorous advocate for the hinterland communities, and you represent the growing communities in the southern part of the Sunshine Coast. We are absolutely considered with the plans and priorities of this council. Alongside us for these 12 years has been a truly great bloke in Peter Cox. Crybaby today, but there's reasons why. Councillor Cox, you've been an enduring force of calm, reason, considerate thinking, coupled with the ability to tap into the thoughts and desires and the aspirations of our community. Councillor Pete, in addition to representing your division, you have played an important role, leadership role, in economic, placemaking and environment and livability portfolios. It would be fair to say, in fact there's no other way to say, you've been a major part of every major initiative that the Sunshine Coast has put together over the last 12 years. Very insightful, and your contribution is enormous. Your drive, your passion for maintaining the lifestyle of the Sunshine Coast, and everything that is about it is apparent and obvious to all, and the 3 communities that you have served over your time as their representative. You can be rightly proud of the major transformational initiatives you have had an integral hand in, including the biosphere designation and our aspirations to create the Olympic 2032 park at Kiwana Stadium. During the last 12 years under the stewardship of Mayor Mark, we have delivered many groundbreaking projects that will benefit generations to come. These include the expansion of the Sunshine Coast Airport, right bang smack in the middle of Division 8. What a bumpy road that was, but what a massive success it is for this region. The emerging city centre at which we stand today. The international broadband cable that comes up Maroochydore Beach, about a kilometre that way. The Blue Heart, our biosphere designation, which I've already mentioned, and the solar farm at Valdora. Solar farm, when it first came out of the ground, was a $50 million project, the singular biggest project we'd ever put together at the time, and it now covers, I think it's 107% of our current electrical bill for the council. Extraordinary. In that time, it's noted that the Mayor, our council-owned conservation estate, has expanded significantly with future acquisitions in the pipeline. We have the largest Land for Wildlife membership of any council in Queensland, something I'm very proud of, with 866 participating properties, an enduring testament to the commitment of our community and to our natural environment. Mr Mayor promised in 2012 that the council he would lead would always be at the forefront of exploring new horizons, generating new ideas, developing community pride, and preserving our natural landscapes. The ecosystems and the building opportunities of the future generations to come are all well underway and doing an extremely good job across the Sunshine Coast. In closing, Coxie, you're an amazing man, you're an amazing human. Your honesty, your faith, your loyalty, you're a good mate to all. You're a man of action, and you're known as the pathway man. You're respected by the community, and your love and care for the family is obvious. Enjoy your retirement from council, Pete. Have a lot of time with your family, and have a great time exploring I'll say that again. Didn't come out right this time. Enjoy your retirement and enjoy your family. We're so grateful for everything that you've done for the Sunshine Coast region. Councillor Ricky, your passion for the coast and the hinterland is evident and shining. Set your mind to a task and you get it done. Your love for the Glasshouse Mountains is paramount, and that's obvious in some of your quotes that you say across the time in council. Some of my favourites: the best bumps on the planet, community of communities, the body politic. Remind yourself of this. And probably one of the greatest is, you know, we are the size of a small country. You are articulate, you have an enormous vocabulary, and you're precise in your wording. At times, I think you're a human version of ChatGPT. You're stylish, you are the arty councillor, and you express yourself in your own unique way. Councillor Rick, to you and your family, well done since 2012. Thank you for your support of our Deputy Mayor. And Councillor Rick, thank you for your service to the Sunshine Coast. And to Mr Mayor, Mark, on behalf of the 2012, 2016 and the 2020 councils, the 2,000 council staff and contractors, the 350,000 plus Sunshine Coast residents of the Sunshine Coast, we say a genuine and heartfelt thank you for your service. Mark, you've always been an inspiration to me and to many people across the Sunshine Coast. Mark, we wish you and your beautiful wife, Laurel, Mayoress Laurel, the best for the future. Mark, thank you for your service to the Sunshine Coast, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Prey. I'm sure I speak on behalf of Councillor Cox and Councillor Baberowski in our appreciation for your work you've put into presenting this morning. Thank you. Councillors, opportunity, and Councillor Landsberg is going to jump in. It's opportunity for you to, well, you don't need to be praising us, but maybe reflecting on the term or referencing your own supporters that you might like to take the opportunity to do as we wrap up this last OM. So over to you, Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And yeah, obviously I'd just like to rise to say a few words. Very hard act to follow, and seeing the emotion in the room, it's surprising to me as a, I won't say it anymore after this term, first term councillor, but it's a warts and all opportunity to express, especially our passion for the community and in regards to how our personalities reflect what we lead here in the chamber. Mr Mayor, as the President of the LGAQ, your region shaping projects that you've supported, but the vision that you've actually taken for this Sunshine Coast Council and how we are actually viewed across the state, I think is a really important that we should really take from your term since 2012. It's been an incredible achievement. As a councillor coming in with no experience whatsoever, a lot of small business experience and a lot of community experience, I couldn't be more proud to serve on this term with you. It's been an absolute amazing experience for me to watch and learn from yourself. Councillor Rick, incredible human being. Arts and culture is your passion, and for me, as well as learning around culture and arts and performing arts, it's been an incredible journey for me in the short term. I just want to make sure I will continue to be your advocate for the arts. You're an amazing individual, and I absolutely respect our conversations we've been able to have in Caloundra when we shared offices next door to each other. It really drove home the importance of family, and talking to Huxley only yesterday when he was 19 years old and out on the hustings, and the importance of family, that we all make a commitment, and it's not just a commitment for yourselves, but you really need that support from your family. And I think, you know, to do 3 terms and to have your family base behind you is just an incredible achievement. There's so many people that sit behind all of you that help you drive to the wonderful achievements that you have done over the last 3 terms. Councillor Peter, your friendship and your respect for you as a human being, you're an incredible person. You really have, I haven't seen anyone have your finger on the pulse of the community as you. You've been a wonderful person for me to actually bounce a few ideas off. I've learnt so much from this man. I've got the utmost respect for him, especially in terms of the projects he's delivered, but how he immersed in his community, and a real advocate for so many projects in Division 3, and what you've achieved. Take my hat off to you. Just quickly, maybe to echo Councillor Ted's words about being the best term for council that he's sat on, that means a lot to me. I think in terms of achievements for this last 4 years, I just want to say thank you to my fellow councillors. It's been a pleasure. We've delivered some wonderful projects in this term, and I think as we reflect, as we sort of finish here today, I think we can all be proud of what we achieved. But most importantly, it's the staff in council that actually, for us as we represent a huge organisation, these projects that we deliver and the actual experience of what our staff and the depth of knowledge that we actually are able to draw on is second to none. And to me, as for a councillor, in regards to having that opportunity to discuss certain projects and understand the reason behind a lot of the decisions that are made in council, and then communicating that with my residents as well, I just want to say thank you so much. It's an ongoing, amazing reflection on our staff in council. Emma, thank you so much for leading council over, obviously, since you had come on to your position. You've done a fantastic job. I mean, obviously, we continue to work with, obviously, our culture of the council, being nearly 2,000 employees. We're always going to have issues and things that we need to work through, but your passion and your care for your staff is second to none, and I just want to thank you for that. And in closing, thank you to fellow councillors. It's been a wonderful ride, and I also just want to thank my family as well, because they've been amazing as well, so thank you.
Good on you, Paul. Councillor Johnston, OAM.
That means ordinary Australian, doesn't it? Yeah. Mr Mayor, thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak for the last time as a councillor on this term. It's been a privilege. It's been certainly a lot different to when I was a councillor in the 80s and 90s, in that this is a total commitment. And without my wife, my extended family and my many friends, I couldn't have done this for the last 4 years. And I wouldn't be thinking about doing it for another 4 years, because their support has been incredible. I've missed many events, sporting facilities like Councillor Cox, and family gatherings because of council commitments. But they've all been very understanding, and I thank them for that. the residents and electors of Division 5, I wish to thank them for the great privilege to have been their councillor for this term. Occasionally you get someone who is a bit difficult to handle, but generally they've been wonderful, really wonderful people, and I thank them very much for their support, their encouragement, and also for being there to provide advice to me whenever necessary. Before I came on council, the previous councillor for some parts of the division for 12 years and parts of the division for 20 years was Councillor Jenny Mackay. And I wish to thank Councillor Jenny because she bequeathed to me a project for the dark skies in the Mary Valley, which is now hopefully coming to fruition at long last. And I also like to thank Jenny because it's a rare thing in life when someone steps down from a position and then isn't critical of who follows. And Jenny has never been critical of any of the matters in which I've been making decisions on. If anything, she's been supportive. She given me a bit of advice from time to time, which is I always took and followed through on. Mr Mayor, it's been a privilege to be a councillor under your mayoralty. I've told you on a number of occasions how much I admire the fact that you have made sure that the council gets along, made sure that we remain determined, etc. And I can still remember you saying that of your 3 terms, this council, I won't say the words that you said because I don't want to embarrass previous councils, but you said that this was an excellent council. And you were very complimentary about the fact that we get on, we do what the jobs that we have to do, we follow the agenda, we don't grandstand as a general rule, and that the meetings are the ordinary meetings are generally finished by lunchtime, which wasn't the case previously when they used to go on till 6 or 7 at night. And you were proud of the fact that and I'm proud too, of the fact that there have been only 1 or 2 notified motions necessary during this council. So, Mr Mayor, you have left a in life we talk about nation building projects, but you have left a legacy of region building projects. It's something that you should be very proud of, and that all the councillors who've helped you to achieve that and the officers who've helped you to achieve it should be extremely proud also. And thank you. When I came on council, I talked about there was a need to improve the culture within some of the departments in council, and individuals told me I didn't know what I was talking about. However, I would like to say that under the CEO's leadership with Emma Thomas, that the culture in this organisation has improved dramatically. And that's thanks to you, also to the ELT, and also to the councillors who are here. The ELT I have worked very closely with, and I'd like to say thank you to each one of you. You've been, in some cases, a good friend, and in every case, you've been extremely supportive and helpful, for not just me, but for the constituents of Division 5. So thank you, and I know that there are a couple of mayoral candidates out there that seem to think that we should get rid of our CEO and our ELT, but I just remind them that first of all, they've got to get elected. Secondly, they don't have the power to do what they're saying. And thirdly, they've got to get 5 other councillors to agree with them to tell the CEO to get rid of somebody. And, you know, they just don't understand how local government works. And I think that that's a tragedy that they're prepared to run for mayor and run off at the mouth with some of these issues, which they should have learnt during their training before they were allowed to nominate for a position in this election. I can't let the opportunity go by to not thank two very special people in my life, in my council life. One who served me for some 3.5 years in Leslie Elms, and secondly, Hilary, who has been my, Hilary Wallace has been my CSO for the last 6 months or so, or probably 9 months actually. And those two ladies have been invaluable because of their because of their ability, their intelligence, but also because of their local knowledge of the hinterland where my division is. I'd like to say that it's been a privilege to serve as a service excellence portfolio with my good mate and fellow councillor, Councillor Dickson, and Deborah Robinson, ELT, and Scott Taylor from the built infrastructure and also the customer service and planning. We have made enormous strides since you both came on board, and I'm really proud of how we've helped to change a lot of things in this organisation. During my term, I've served on the Waste Management Committee, and nobody so far has mentioned about the fact that, you know, we've really been at the forefront, this council, in relation to waste management in our new material recovery centre in Maroochydore, redevelopment of our waste sites, conversion of the methane to electricity, and also in the stage 1 of FOGO, food organics, green organics. We introduced the green organics, and in the very near future, in the next few years, we will be moving into the food organics area. And I'm proud that we've acquired a significant property south of the racecourse at Galoundra to develop that plant and equipment, etc., and it will be nation leading. I've been involved in the project control groups in relation to Galoundra Chambers, the old Maroochy buildings in Nambour, and this building here. And I could say the way we're going about it has been really well done. It's been well led. I was a critic when I first ran for council about this building. I could say it's one of the few things I was wrong about. So I now understand the project a lot better, and I'm proud of the project. I've served on the Quarry Committee in relation to the council-owned quarries, on the Olympic Planning Committee, which is something that will be ongoing for a number of years, and I'm proud of the fact that there have been some great things that have occurred in this council. I really appreciate the support of all the council for the ecological area, north of Mary Cancross Park. Once developed, that is going to be just such a fantastic facility. And like somebody else was saying before, I've never taken a dollar towards my campaign. My family and I, my wife and I fund it entirely. I'm pleased to say that this council has been politics free, and I hope that that continues, because once we get political parties involved, there's agendas that come in from outside, and that's not always the best result for the constituents of the Sunshine Coast. Probably the last couple of things I want to say is no matter what happens at this election, I'm going to be a winner. If I succeed, I'm a winner in that I get the opportunity to serve for another 4 years. And if I lose, well, I'll be a winner because I'll be able to spend a lot more time with my family and friends and concentrate on some of my hobbies. The Mayor talked about me receiving an OAM for my service to the local government and the community. I hope to continue that service in the future, as long as my health allows me to, which is not a problem. And just say that you don't receive awards or an OAM for what you do. You receive an OAM for the leadership that you gave to the community and all of the help that you've had from so many people to get that recognition. And over the years, the last few years, people have said to me, you've brought a bit of humour to council. And sometimes it's not been politically correct, and I've been chipped about that. So I'll try to tell one last story. Yes, but it's not. But it will be politically correct. There's an old story that goes that there was a chicken and a pig that were walking past a motel, and outside at the front of the motel it said, "Bed and breakfast, bacon and eggs, all included." And the chicken went, "That's terrible, terrible, it's terrible." And the pig said to the chicken, "What are you getting upset about?" She said, bacon and eggs, you know, that's my eggs, you know. And the pig turned to the chicken and said, "That's okay for you. For you, it's contribution. For me, it's a commitment." And I'd like everybody to realise that we've all made a commitment, but especially we've made a contribution to the best interests of the people of the Sunshine Coast. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Dickson.
I've really appreciated all the views and comments this morning. It's great because you relive a fair bit of history, but the key take-home is that nothing gets achieved as an individual. It's teamwork. It's always been teamwork, and regardless of the things that we have disagreed on, we've agreed on more than the things we've disagreed on. And in fact, people have used the words "the best council." I've been on council since 2006 at the age of 19, and this is the best council I've ever been on. And I tell you why. It's because you can have a disagreement, you can put it behind you, and you can turn up at work the next day and get back to work. That's what it's always been. And with my colleagues here today, we have had conflict in the past, but we've moved on. I'd like to thank Councillor Peter Cox, and there's one thing I remember Pete backing me on and helping me with. It was the upgrade of the basketball stadium at Buderim. And Pete and I went in very, very hard a few terms ago to get some money to do up the basketball, the Clippers Stadium at Buderim, and we made it happen. And Pete and his family have been significantly involved in the sports and basketball, and we were able to do that. And I've always thanked Peter and appreciated his help in doing that. And when I've needed Peter at meetings, he's been there to support me. So I will acknowledge that. And Peter has had a great contribution to council. In fact, someone said earlier that he's been the calm in the storm, and I've always noticed that in his debates. He's always been calm and he's tried his best to be respectful. So I will miss you and appreciate you, Pete. Councillor Rick, you've been very personal. You've asked me, "Hey, how's the family? What's happening?" I remember in my younger years, you'd challenge me, "Mate, go climb that mountain this weekend because in 10 years, your knees are going to be hurting when you get out of bed." It was those comments. It was your life experience that you'd tap into me and say, "Christian, you need to get over to Europe. You need to do things. You need to go on to holidays." I didn't make it to Europe. I made it to the States and Canada. It was a pretty big holiday. But you've really pushed me out of my comfort zone. You've challenged me to be a better human, and just sharing, the quirks of life with you. It's been great, and I've learned a lot from you. I know we haven't always agreed on our positions, but one thing I respect about you is that once you've made your decision, you stick to it. You stick to it and you stick to it. Every year for 12 years, you'd stick to it. Regardless of who agreed or disagreed with you, you'd stick to your program and you'd get on with the work. In fact, you will read your card later, but in your card that you will receive, I actually wrote in there that I found you to be the voice of reason. You've always said, on balance. when you look at the globo, you look at the situation, you take the perspective, you've always looked at what's best for everybody. And you've tried to bring everyone on the journey, and I will respect and miss that, Rick. Mr. Mayor, you've led a really good team. You know, I remember sitting in the office when you came in as a candidate 12 years ago. You came in for the election and you met with all the sitting councillors. You didn't have to do that, but you did. You turned up, this is my agenda, this is what I'm going to do. And you stuck to everything you said you'd do. Like you, love you, hate you, you've stuck to your agenda. And one of the hardest things I've seen is you've continually gone through mayoral campaigns and people have absolutely kicked you to death. It has been a hard journey, but you've gone through that. You've treated people with respect. In fact, this term, you've sat back a little bit more and you've gone, I want the team to step up. I want the councillors to have a view. I'm not going to be telling people what to do. I respect my colleagues to make their decisions. And you've done that. Not once have you ever called me up in 12 years and said, Christian, I'm disappointed in your decision, or I want you to vote this way. You've never done that. You've just let councillors do their job as independent as you can let them do that. And that's a tough gig for a mayor. I can honestly tell you that is a tough gig. And the fact that I want to come to work and work in this chamber and work with my mayor shows that we've got a great culture and great leadership. So I will say that to you, and you'll read my comments in your card when you see it later, but I found you to be a person that's tried to bring the team together, and you've stayed on that journey. In Division 6, you've always supported me. You know, we talk about the region and the councillors and the different communities, but every time I've come to you for help, you've offered help. Whether that's been support on issues when I've been alone on things, you've been there to support me. Whether I needed additional money to build toilet blocks at Mountain Creek, you chipped in for that because you wanted it to happen. In fact, when I've needed advice over the years and you've given me your opinion, I've taken that on board. I found you to be a very decent human being, and at the end of the day, it's not about your role and prestige, it's actually about who you are as a person inside, because you've been a decent person. I've always found you to treat me with respect and people around me with the greatest amount of respect, and you've led a fantastic team. Mr. Mayor, it was interesting when you started in 2012, I ran unopposed at that election for the first time with, I believe, Tim Dwyer and Russell Green. No one ran against us. As you're leaving, I'm being re-elected unopposed. I don't have an election campaign. And this really gets back to my first point. I've not achieved this on my own. You know, in fact, I've done a small part of the work. It's every single councillor here. It is every staff member in council that's contributed to not only my win, but the success of council. We've done nothing alone. We've done a great job as a team. Mr. Mayor, you will be missed. It is going to be some big shoes to fill. But I genuinely hope the next council and the next mayor can take on the things that you've embodied. Respect the team. Let the team lead. Respect the decisions that are made. Don't take it personal. But at the end of the day, be good people and be good to each other. I wish everybody the best, and I will miss the three that are departing. And thank you for your assistance and working with me in Div 6. Yeah, it will be a little bit harder coming to work knowing that you're not here.
Thank you, Councillor Dickson. We'll go to Councillor Law.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The last time it will be this, Mr. Mayor, but through you nonetheless. I won't repeat anything that's already been said, and I won't add to the praise that has been shared around, because I want to make sure that I continue with my extremely rare request to ever go beyond 5 minutes. It took until November 21 for the first time for that to happen, and then I managed to have a double act that day, after however long it is from April to November, over a whole year, so probably about 18 months or so. But there have been very few since then, so I will cut to the chase, and I will be less than 5 minutes. When I came into council, for me it was about finding a new and different way to represent and work for my community, and I'm very grateful to be having the opportunity to do that with the community development team that was here. And to arrive in 2020 and find a community strategy formally approved and ready to go was a complete delight. The fact that it was written, it was prepared, it had a very strong platform to provide great community development and service for the people of the Sunshine Coast. And it recognised the most vulnerable, and it also took into account and recognised the people who have plenty and live here through choice because it's an incredible place to live. But I do particularly want to thank the community development team. We've worked side by side for 4 years, and I know that they will continue on to do incredible work for everyone in our community. For the Housing and Homelessness Action Plan, that meant no longer could the state government say, we're not talking to you, you've not got a plan, that they will actually now sit at the table and make a difference and help us to collaborate and make a difference, which is so important. We cannot do it on our own. It is not the responsibility of a local government anyhow, but now they will sit at the table and collaborate with our solutions. And it's also enabled us to better work with the not-for-profit sector and also even the private sector on creating unique opportunities to help anyone who is caught up in the housing crisis at the moment. Again, we hear that the vacancy rate for rental accommodation is as close to zero, that we have a serious problem. And whoever gets to sit around this table in the next 4 years, that will need to be the #1 priority. Without a shadow of a doubt, I cannot think of anything more important than providing a safe home for every person on the Sunshine Coast. I think we've come an incredible long way. In 2020, I don't think there was acceptance or even awareness that we had a homelessness problem on the coast. They were people who needed to be moved on, who were in the way of our parks and gardens. So it's always been there, homelessness, for as long as I've worked in the community sector, which is my whole professional career. And I'm getting far too old that I'm not going to share that number. But homelessness has been a problem my whole career. And having the opportunity to do something about that has been very important. And whoever gets to do this in the future, that is the reason for me it has to be the #1 purpose of this council, to get everyone in our community engaged in creating the solution. For example, 3,000 empty homes every single evening on the coast, and less than 1,500 homeless people every evening on the coast. That is a problem that troubles me greatly. We have an accessibility problem to housing today that we surely can fix between us if we work creatively and sensibly. And we must have a very strong, powerful economy to do those good things for our community. So yes, we must still keep working on those things, but we must do that, for me, from my perspective, and what I would like the ongoing work and legacy of this council to do, is to do that work and to make a difference for those people. That's where I'll leave it, because that keeps it under 5 minutes. Yes, it does too, look at that. So thank you very much. It's been an absolute honour to work with you, Mr. Mayor, and the whole council, all of you. It's been great. To the community development team, my extreme gratitude for an amazing 4 years of making a real difference. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, David. Councillor Suarez.
I thought twice about standing to speak, Mr. Mayor, because if anyone thinks that Peter Cox was a crybaby, they haven't seen anything yet. I'd just like to say that the last 4 years have presented a number of challenges, which have been mentioned previously, but along with that, a number of opportunities as well. I'd like to thank the community groups, the sporting groups and the business groups throughout the region, and also particularly Division 9, because many of the projects that we have delivered or are investigating have come from them. It's come from the grassroots, it's come from the community, it hasn't necessarily come from council. I'm very grateful for the knowledge and, oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm very grateful, oh God. Okay, I'll skip that bit and come back later. Okay, no, I'm going to do it. I've got tissues. I'm very grateful to the staff, Emma, yourself as CEO, the ELT, God, because they've really provided a lot of knowledge, a lot of guidance. They've been really good, even when we've challenged them really hard and made them do things that they didn't want to do. I'd also like to thank Awesome Sue, who's currently sipping pina coladas on a cruise. She has been amazing for the residents of Division 9 and solved multiple problems without me even knowing once about them. So I'm very grateful to her. Okay, back on track. So I'm not going to make it personal anymore. ELS portfolio has been a gift, and I thank Warren Bunker and Bill Hadrill for their work today. It's been amazing. To the councillors, I've appreciated your debate and alternative points of view. It's really lovely when everyone is on board and aligned and we have unanimous decisions, but equally as rewarding is when we have challenging debates and we challenge each other's views. Sometimes if you get up to debate your point of view and you know it's not very strong, maybe you need to reconsider your position. So being challenged that way has been a blessing. I'd like to thank the retiring councillors and Mr Mayor for your contributions, all of you. Councillors and mayors come and go, but one thing that we can do is strengthen our communities for the next term of councillors to then provide their leadership too. To the three of you, you haven't wasted your time and you haven't wasted your leadership. I won't talk about my family because we keep our family and work life fairly separate, and they know exactly how I feel. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Councillor Hungerford.
But seeing everyone else has had a say, I should too. Being the longest serving councillor here, 20 years, I've served under 3 mayors. Most likely about to serve under a 4th mayor. Who that is yet to be seen. I think our greatest strength, and it has been particularly since 2012 when you first came in, and so did Peter and Rick and Jason, is that we've been individuals. We haven't had party politics, we haven't had voting blocks, we haven't had that animosity, and that makes it hard for the staff in council if you have a divided and bickering council. We've been able to have those debates in here, respect each other, and if I might put an argument up and the majority does go with it, well, you get on with business and you get on with the next item. And that's what we've been able to do very well as a team, particularly this council. Now you'll notice since 2012, because of that stability, and it's been under your chairmanship, Mr Mayor, and the councillors, each time the elections came up, there was very little change. Because the people saw that stability and the teamwork and council working together, and not just controversy, fighting, scandal and bickering, which you see in other forms of government. The residents respect that. And that was shown, and each time the polls came up, there was very little change. If I think there was only one change because the person retired, and that was Chris Thompson. Every councillor that stood got re-elected. That was the community saying, you're working as a constructive, mature team. And the residents like that. And I've said before, this term of council has been, in my 5 terms as a councillor, the best. This group has worked together the most cohesively that I've seen. Now I'm going into this election where 3 are retiring. Jason's wanting to step up to your role. But I've been here since 2004, you're 2006. Rather than Jason with the 3 retiring, the next 2020. There's a huge gap there, so I am rather apprehensive about the amount of change. It can be a good thing, and it can not be a good thing too, depending on how that group works together. But we've been so cohesive, kept voting blocks and party politics out, and I hope that keeps into the future. That none of us brings that into this chamber and the new group coming in, because I want to see us continue what this council has achieved. We've got ourselves an excellent financial state. We're in all the departments and that, because we've been stable and give clear direction, that means ELT and the team can get on because they know where council's heading. It's not knee-jerk. It's not squabbling and fighting, not quite sure where council's going to go next. And that creates stability for the whole organisation, and I'm hoping that happens in the next term. So all I wanted to say was, best of luck, Jason, a couple of weeks' time. And to To the Mayor, Rick and Peter, I've really enjoyed working with you. And the way we've been able to respectfully have those differences of opinion and debates here, not carried into the next item or the next meeting, and maturely accept the majority decision and move on to the next thing, I think that's been our greatest strength. And I certainly hope the incoming council, and I'm very much looking forward to being part of that one as well, 6th term, if I get that honour given to me by the residents. But I want to work with the new ones coming in and yourselves, and I think those of us that are coming back, help that cohesiveness and that spirit we've worked on. Let's get that from day one into the new council, because that's what I really want to see to continue the great work we've done. To those retiring, all the best. Your futures, and Laurel, for what I know it's like. My wife keeps saying to me every time I nominate now, this is your last one, right? And I go, well, we'll wait and see. Because I do enjoy what I'm doing. It's a passion. It's not easy. It has its ups and downs, and you do get those out there that criticise you no matter what you do. But in particular you, Mr Mayor, I've seen you in past elections, in past times where you've been unfairly criticised and attacked, and you've taken that in your stride and you've responded appropriately, which is a very sound thing to do. So I'm going to this election keen to look at the future. I'm apprehensive about where it's heading with so much change, so many new faces coming on council. But I definitely want to congratulate all of you for working together and having this term of council. Like I said, this is the best I've experienced in 5 experiences. I'm hoping the next one is just as rewarding. But all the best to you, whatever you do in the future. Probably retirement. I think, Mr Mayor, you want to put your feet up a bit unless you want to do some other, I don't know what you're going to do going out of here, but you and Laurel, I know what it's like, especially for the wives and the family, because they watch that criticism and personal attacks and things, and it is taxing on your family. And I know that. Remember, I came home one night and my eldest daughter had taken an abusive phone call on the phone and she was all in tears. Family cops it as well. And that's not fair. They can come at me anytime they like, not a problem. And they shouldn't attack the families, and I know the families wear that. So thank you for supporting Mark, giving him that, because I know a wife is the wind beneath your wings when you're in this job. Without that support, it's not possible to do this job. And I wish you all the best in the future, you and Mark, and Rick and your family, because I know families have a lot to do with election campaigns. You're in the thick and thin of it. They always are. I wish all my colleagues that are re-standing all the best on the 16th of March, because I do look forward to seeing them working here, and I'm looking forward to the possibilities of having another cohesive council to work in after the 16th of March. So all the best to everyone.
Thanks, Councillor Hungerford. Thanks, Ted. Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I said to Councillor O'Prey yesterday, could this be a record meeting? 10 minutes, we should be out. 2 hours later, we're still here. And being the last to speak, I didn't intend to speak today, but I think it's appropriate that I do, because I shouldn't be the only one that sits here. I've been part of this council, and I believe that I should at least say something. New elections and new periods can be seen as apprehensive, but I remember when Councillor Hungerford first got elected back in 2004, and I was the last serving mayor of Shire, and I remember being called into one of the councillors' houses before being sworn in, and another councillor was with that person, and I was told that I didn't have the numbers, and I knew that. I knew I was facing 4 years of having virtually the opposition, and I was given an ultimatum that I could either be a lame duck mayor and play along or have a turbulent period. And I can tell you that I walked out of that meeting thinking that is not going to happen in my watch. The people elected me to be able to serve them honesty, integrity, and that's what I did. And you might remember we said, before we got sworn in, we had a charter of goodwill, and we worked out a way of how to work together for 4 years. and it served us well. Decision-making was convoluted, difficult at times, but we made great decisions. So irrespective of what is before us, there is a way that people can work together. There's been a lot of people who've asked me during this term if I'm enjoying my term, and I've been absolutely honest with them, and I've said no. I've really struggled with the role that I've felt at many times being on the outer, and I have always been a team player, and it's been a difficult part and role for me. Maybe that's because of who I am, true to my values. That very core of justice and truth is what drives me, and I have to say that it's been very challenging at times. My mental health at times has been really challenged, and I remember after a very difficult meeting that we had, the councillor, Christian Dickson, called me and asked me if I was okay, and I'll never forget that. The last 6 months has been, I said to Maria, it's been probably the most challenging for me. Wave of big issues, and it's, you know, that impenetrable type of protection that we as councillors have to build, you know, to protect our mental health, to protect ourselves from being gotten at by those people who want to attack you, by those people who want to stab you in the back. But that shield got and was penetrated, and it's been difficult. And I thank the CEO for the support you've given me. It's been challenging. But I'm still up for another fight. And irrespective of what this council and the new makeup will be, I think the challenges for us in our community is extraordinary, extraordinary. And I really can't see through how this community can be able to continue to support the growth while we're struggling with the lack of infrastructure that the federal and state government provide our community. As a councillor, I feel for our community. We want to do better, but we are there like beggars with begging bowls, asking for more, and we get nothing given to us. And so the challenge for the new council is going to be incredibly difficult to keep the community on board, because growth will happen and it will be challenging to be able to justify how that we can continue on that growth path without the roads, the transport, the infrastructure to support. I think Alison Barry Jones, or Kerr Jones at the time, wanted a convention and exhibition centre. That was her primary purpose of being elected in 2000. Still don't have that facility, 24 years later. And the same when I was involved with Brightwater, the question about Quina Way being 4-laned. Still, to this day, it's not 4-lane. I remember when your father got elected for Quina, I said the first thing you need to do if you ever get into government is finalise the 4-laning from Quina Way to Mooloolaba. Still was not even in the first stage of the Mooloolaba River interchange, and unfunded. And guess what happened? The federal government pulled that project, and we still don't know when that project's going to be delivered. I feel for our community. I come from deep service, and the battles that I've had in the past with big businesses, governments have done nothing to support small businesses. I feel for those businesses today, the farmers, the Coles and the Woolworths of the world that are destroying the very fabric of what a fair market system should be. We see the results of that. 25 years ago, I called them out, and because of the lack of governments to have the guts to make the decisions to support a system that would support everyone instead of favouring those that are big and capable of looking after themselves. So that's what drives me, and I thank you. I've tried to be respectful, irrespective of times that we've disagreed in council. councillors, I really appreciate the fact that we do all come from different parts, have different values, different objectives, but I respect that, and I try and treat everybody with that respect in this forum. And I think one of the great things about local government is that it doesn't end up the rabble that we see in state and federal politics, that sort of childish playroom type of banter that goes on. It's just terrible. And in local government, that's one thing that I think we should hold our head up high, that we've never denigrated down to that low standard. So thank you to the retiring councillors, the Mayor. I wish you well. I've been there. I've ended my term in 2008 and had 12 years out. It is a good place to be. Enjoy it. Really spend time with your loved ones, because they're the ones that really matter.
Thanks very much, Councillor Natoli. And finally to Councillor O'Prey, just to talk from his Division 8 perspective.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and with your indulgence, I understand that I've already spoken to the motion, and I appreciate your gratitude in letting me speak to Division 8, as it's a unique situation I stand in right now, where hopefully I see you on the other side, but I am vacating this chair. Mr Mayor, a couple of thank yous. Most importantly is the communities of Division 8. There's the Sunshine Cove Residents Association, we've got the Pacific Paradise Progress Association, we've got the Majimba Residents Association, the Town of Seaside Association, the Friends of Urumba, have all been a very big part of what we do here in Division 8 and the Council. Division 8, as you all know, is very much a unique division where it's got a great big river. It runs right through the middle of it, and at times we do have two different types of characters on each side of the river, and wearing a number of hats throughout the years has been a bit of a challenge at times, but I think the community have understood the situation and have certainly supported me along the way. Mr Mayor, I'd like to just share one of my very early learnings in council as the Division 8 councillor, and you might remember that back in, I think it was 2012, when we first came in, we started the work of the Evans Street widening. The Evans Street project back then was a $20 million project. It was the singular biggest project the council had ever seen. Now we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, but back then, Evans Street widening was the biggest project, $20 million. And at the very same time, I'd done a trip to Sydney and I stole an idea about bringing some ping pong tables to town. When I put the very first ping pong tables in at Cotton Tree Park opposite the pool, we had a project that was worth about $15,000. We had a biggest project on earth just down the road in Evans Street. And all the kudos, all the love from the community went straight for the ping pong tables, and nobody cared about Evans Street. It was amazing. And it's a real interesting learnings that I took on board and I've held with me for a long time, that we must have an interest and a concern about those big projects that we all do, we all love, but we've got to get those little things right, because the community are all over that all the time. The other highlight that I'd like to say, which has been hugely successful for not only Division 8, but more so my portfolio, has been the inclusion and the creation of the Sunshine Coast Events Board. It came out of my mind, and it was something that I brought to the table very, very early in council, and it's been going from strength to strength. We have a number of chair people there running it, chairpersons, and I'm very proud of that, and I think they've done an enormous job and an enormous effort right across the whole Sunshine Coast for the events, knowing now that we have around about $100 million of economic benefit each year to the Sunshine Coast through that tourism board and through the events board, and also through tourism through events. And with that, I want a very sincere thank you to one man who's been beside me the whole way, the entire way. I've had, initially it was tourism, sport and events for the first 8 years, and then we went into economic development, and that's Mr Greg Laverty. Greg, I just want to say thank you so much for all your assistance and all your help for helping me with the portfolio. Your team, you are very well respected in your team, particularly with the economic development team and of course the community team. But not only that, you're just a good bloke and you're highly intelligent. We see the presentations, and I'm not going to compare you to the other ELT, but every single time you get up there and you just rattle it off. You just know the speech, you know the numbers, and it's an extraordinary effort, and I think we're all very proud of what you've done over the years, and I thank you for that. The other one that I'd really like to say a big thank you to is Craig Matheson, who's been alongside us for the entire journey as well. Craig, you've done an enormous amount of work behind the scenes, as you like to do. Your work today has been exemplary for me, thank you very much. And everything that we've done over the years, so I'm just really, really proud to call you one of our greatest assets of the Sunshine Coast. Thank you very much. And of course, to my councillor colleagues. The class of 2012, it is somewhat coming to an end in some parts, and let's hope that on the other side I'm still running from 2012. But let me say one thing. I want to say very much thank you to Terry Landsberg, who's been my right-hand man for the last 4 years. come into it very green, very wide-opened eyes, and has learned a lot and has just really gone from strength to strength. And we really do hope that in the next term of council you're elected and you can run economic development. But in closing, Mr Mayor, I've had some amazing council support staff, PAs, whatever it is what we want to call them. I know that it's council support staff these days, but we have had a number of names over the years. Gail, to Lauren, to Loza, to Ashley, of course, who I had right through the middle of my term, and in recent years, Colleen, and then just since Colleen's retirement, or sorry, move up to Noosa, I've had Maddie and Natty. Those women are amazing people, superhuman at times, and we all lean on our council support officers a lot, but I'd particularly like to thank each and every one of them. And thank you very much to everybody for your support over the last 12 years. Thank you very much.
And one final speaker. Hand over to you, Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is an unusual position for me to recognise and reflect on the final meeting of this term of council. I think on behalf of myself and ELT and the 2,000 people that make up all of council, I've been reflecting and feeling very grateful for the wisdom, the passion, and the efforts that we see all of you put into knowing and working with your communities. I also want to thank you for sometimes making us laugh, sometimes making us cry, sometimes teaching us resilience by jumping out from behind desks, and challenging us on the very things that we are working on your behalf. We stand here serving the council of the day, and I hope that you feel that we've been successful in that task. I did reflect, though, and I wanted you to reflect, and I'm surprised it hasn't come up today, about the term that you've served on. It had a number of words that people use generally out there. The word unprecedented has been used an unprecedented amount of times. The word pivot, the words you're on mute, still ring in our hallways today, and no doubt on your screens as well. But it was an unprecedented time, and that's what I want to talk about today, because I think it's worth reflecting, as you've all said, that this has been a fantastic council. You started at a time that has been unheard of in any local government. You couldn't even sit close together. You were brought in and inducted into council. 5 of you were brand new, and you were brought into council at a time where you couldn't really talk to each other, and nor could you talk to your communities very easily. It's really an unusual time that you were brought into council. And I think about the efforts of the staff at that time, bringing in a council, and we talk about pivoting and all these other things, but I can't imagine being in the shoes of meeting management at the time and being given that challenge and task. And we are lucky to have probably the best, most incredible meeting management crew that I think any local government has on the planet. I might be biased, but they are incredible. I think about our ICT teams and the challenge that was thrown at their feet to throw down a number of computers and get all these people working from home in 2 seconds. People in culture, the communications that we had to put out, the teams that maintained our front line, the people who couldn't work from home, and the focus on community at the time when we knew for people's wellbeing and mental health they had to get out. It was the only place they could be, in our parks, along our beaches, wherever it was where they could go outside and just breathe a bit of fresh air in this time that was just so weird and strange at the time. And I think on your behalf, for our frontline staff, they turned on a dime and did things that were they didn't even believe they could do. And we couldn't work at full strength. We had people in the front seats and people in the back seats, all wearing masks, all trying to do their job for our community. And you supported that. You helped that process through. Our libraries couldn't even receive books back, without extra cleaning and putting those books in quarantine for a certain period of time before they could give them out again. The extra cleaning. And the fact that council had put away a significant amount of funding in our disaster resilience funding to be able to afford that and to be able to do those things for the community at the time, I think was really, really important, and you supported that. And we got over that, we got through that to the other side. We'd been focusing on helping small businesses recover, helping our tourist economy coming back. And in amongst all of that, we got to early 2022 and lo and behold had a rain bomb. No one expected that. Do you remember that in your term of council? Days and days of rain that just hurt and damaged so many people. Councillor O'Prey, I remember you showing us pictures of water flowing under your home, and that was just so many members of our community were harmed. But it did significant damage to our whole parts of our region, stuff that we are still recovering from today. We added to our capital works program over $50 million just in the QRA response to that event. And that is a significant thing when you think about the delivery that has happened under your term of all the major projects. We've still achieved incredible targets of project delivery, but on top of that, we've had that added QRA focus that we've had to turn towards. Councillor Law, you talked about housing and homelessness, and during this period, the whole of Australia experienced a move back. We certainly experienced a move from people in Melbourne and Sydney coming up to the Sunshine Coast. At its peak, at Aura alone, they were releasing double the amount of blocks that they had done in the past in 2021. Double the amount to produce housing. Our planning and our plumbing teams were just working at a level that no one had ever seen before to try and support that and to help that effort of producing housing. And so, we continue to work on those things, but this is an unprecedented time. It is something that we haven't seen in the past. In amongst all of that, we moved into City Hall. City Hall that had been built and a long-held vision of many of you sitting around here today. But I want to reflect on the efforts of Brendan Hogan, who's no longer part of the team, but also Bill Hadrill in taking on finalising the building, fixing so many little things. So I could probably sit here for another hour and tell you just a story about the table you're sitting around today. But those things all happened during your final term, during your term here today. And we celebrate, actually, the way that we moved into this building. We're working in a way that our people have never worked in before. And they adapted and they were agile and they followed us and they did things that we asked them to be experimental and innovative, and they did those things. And I think that is an enormous credit to all of our staff, that they came with goodwill and gave things a crack and now operate in a very agile and innovative way that other people often ask me how we got to do this the way that we did. I reflect on our community and how all of you have been such strong proponents for your communities. I've never seen, I've served other governments, not local governments, but I've served other governments, and I really talk often about the level of democracy that exists in this room. This to me is democracy as it's meant to happen, where people serve their communities, listen to their communities, listen to the people sitting around the table who are also serving their communities, and try and find the best way through that gives the best outcome for the region. And I see that every day. I see the struggles that you have in coming to terms with the evidence that we provide and the other sort of bits and pieces that across very complex subjects. And you come at that with really goodwill. And I think not only should you be really proud, but our community should be really proud of the democracy that gets carried out in this room. A lot has been said about our Mayor, our Deputy Mayor and Councillor Cox. Thank you for the support that you've provided to the teams. You've continued to challenge us, but also leadership in government is such an important thing. Leadership of vision and what we're trying to achieve, but also leadership when disaster has happened. We haven't talked about disaster and disaster management, but as a community, we've experienced our fair share of what's been going on. And I know our Mayor is very passionate about supporting and leading the community through that, not just within council, but leading our local disaster management group that is made up of so many parts of QPS, QFES, a number of community groups that all come together to support our community during those times. And the Mayor has always been there front and centre and has never shied away from his responsibilities to do that. And Deputy Mayor, you've been there too with a firm eye to how do we recover our community, how do we make things happen so that we don't leave anyone behind. And they've been really important parts of your service here to our local community. For me, I think our council for this term has been defined as unprecedented. I hope that you all stay well. I love that you share our values and we share them together. The care, respect, trust, being curious and connected are the things that we've endeavoured to bring together with an executive leadership team that are second to none. I think the strongest group of people that you'll see in the state of Queensland, and I thank them for the support that they've given to you, and I hope that we can have equally a successful time in the next term of council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. We have one final motion to pass, and that is the presentation. Councillor Johnston's moving. Someone to second. Councillor Maria, thank you. The recommendations there. All those in favour of receipt? That's unanimous. Great way to finish. Thank you. So, councillors, with that, I want to thank the members of the public who joined us in the gallery today and those who've joined us online, and with great pride and great memories and great appreciation for the support that I've had from all in this room and all those in the community. I close this ordinary meeting of the Sunshine Coast Council, ending our 2024 quadrennial term. Thanks, everybody.